So we come to our next metric for performance, and this is known as the error vector magnitude, or with the acronym EVM. So as I mentioned, this is going to be a metric where we can determine it without knowledge of the data that was transmitted. So I was trying to show you how that works. Let's take the example of a BPSK received signal. Here we have the positive amplitude, negative amplitude. These are ostensibly what was transmitted. And in yellow are what were actually received. So because of distortion or because of noise, I see many different points that are not necessary. They're sort of clusters. This is a pretty bad system. They're pretty close to zero here. But there's still some clusters around -1, some clusters about +1. And that's, what am I going to do? Well, I'm going to take a threshold test, and everything that's on this side, I'm going to say, oh, that must have been a -1. Everything on that side is going to be a +1. But now I wanted to come up with a metric, this error vector magnitude, where I don't really know if it's true. Was there really a -1 that was transferred for all of the points that are on here? So, for instance, all the negative values will assume to be the logical zero, but that won't necessarily be the case, and I just can't count errors because I don't know the data. So let's look at this particular point. It's very close to zero. It's like, what if this was not actually a logical zero that was sent? It was a logical 1 that was sent, but the noise had pushed it all the way over here. So now what do I do in this situation? What can I do without knowing what was actually transmitted? So I'm deciding this metric. And I said, you know, this was close to zero. That's kind of a danger zone, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, how far are the points that I chose that went with the -1? How close really are they to -1? Because if they're not very close to -1, then maybe they're at risk, that maybe they weren't actually the ones I thought. So this metric is how far from the assumed transmitted value. So everything to the left is 0, I'm going to assume was a -1. So how far from -1 are they? For instance, if I take this one, which was at -0.03, and I said, how far is that from the -1? It comes to 0.7. So that's for one point, but of course the error vector magnitude looks at all of the points. So it takes the average value. So in this case, there are some that are associated with the logical 0 because the received signal was less than 0. I assumed it was a logical 0 transmitted, and then what was the distance to that symbol for 0. And now I also do that for the other type of error, possible type of error. So I can measure both. And then I take the average. I average over all the numbers there. So it's sort of a measure of how big is this cloud which is around the transmitted bits, the transmitted symbols. So it's a very intuitive metric. You know, we could see where this would be a useful measure to quantify the quality of our signal. So we've always talked about binary, but I just want to give you an example of an advanced modulation format here when the signal space is actually two-dimensional, not one-dimensional. Here you can see there are 16 different symbols that were transmitted, and each one of them sees around it some cloud because we sent one of these 16, but because of noise, there's a little clouds around it. I just want to show you that this error vector magnitude, why do we call it vector when the example I give in the one-dimensional space for the binary, it's just a very simple distance. But we can generalize this to any dimension. But I'm going to do the two-dimensional already. That's a little easier. So I have this symbol that I decided was the symbol transmitted, but my receive point is somewhere far away. This is still the closest one. I've sort of zoomed in on one of those. But it's some distance away. So I can calculate the length of this vector between what I decided it was and whatever it was, and it's the length of this vector that I turn into my average. And so if the coordinates are in phase and quadrature, that's a vocabulary we use in communications, it would be this Euclidean distance that we're calculating and that we're averaging over for the EVM. So in particular, if you look at maybe some software tools on an oscilloscope, because this is something that we could do on a digital oscilloscope, it will make this calculation, it will average over these distances, and it will also do a normalization according to the energy of the signal, which is in here parameterized by the largest symbol, so that we get something that's sort of in a normalized range. So this EVM, how do we compare it? Like the bit error rate, we know the true bits, gold standard is really what we want to know, but it takes expensive equipment. EVM, something we can do with a digital oscilloscope. Basically, it runs some software in the background, makes the arbitrary decisions, and not arbitrary, makes the threshold decisions, and calculates the EVM. So it's assuming that the symbols are not wrong, because it doesn't know if they're wrong or right. So it just says, okay, I made a decision, and it's quantitative. But on this big assumption that I don't know what the true data is. If the signal is good, if there's not too much noise, it's a great indicator of how good the signal is. I can quantify, this one is great, this one's good. If it's bad, though, it's not necessarily very quantitative. And I'd like to show you what that means. So in the case of a really strong signal, the EVM is proportional to 1 over the square root of the signal-to-noise ratio. So remember I said it's the size of the cloud. The size of the cloud is determined by the amount of noise. So intuitively there's this relationship. And if all of the decisions were correct, or maybe that's not the right way to put it, if the signal is very strong, if there are very few errors being made, then this relationship is almost exact. So it's a very strong assumption, but under some conditions, this could be a way that we could use EVM, is to maybe even estimate what is the signal-to-noise ratio for my signal. So what I'm going to plot here is the signal-to-noise ratio versus the error vector magnitude. And this curve is, that equation, like it's equal. This is what it would be. Now, if I use BPSK and and I look at what if I had this SNR, then I would have a certain number of bits that were in error, and so that there would be a discrepancy. That wouldn't, some of the bits that I said were due to the 1, were not actually intended for the 1, they were intended for the 0. And so there's a deviation between these curves. And the real EVM, if I knew what was going, if I don't know what's going on, is going to be this pink one, but if I knew what was the exact, what the bits transmitted were, I would get this blue one. Because I wouldn't include the, okay, let me back up and be a little clearer. I'm on this line. Here's 0. Here's the logic 1, -1, and I have something right here. I can calculate the EVM being this, but if I actually knew what the bit being transmitted was, I would say, no, the EVM I should calculate should be here. So on the ideal one here, I have calculated the true one. I know that this was intended for the -1, but that it was closer to the 1, and so the distance from the true symbol transmitted is this, and it's larger. If I use that, I know the difference, I'm going to get an exact relationship, which is just that blue line. But if I don't know, sometimes I'm going to have some where I'm lying and they're a little shorter than they should be. They should have been longer. And depending on different factors, that'll change. So this is why we say it's an approximation and not an equality. And I talked about higher order modulation formats, and we'll look at how that relates. But before I do that, let's go back to the BPSK, and we can see that even a weak signal, strong signal, those two curves are very, very close. So it's a pretty good, useful approximation for relating for determining the signal-to-noise ratio. Why is that important? Because with the signal-to-noise ratio, I have a theoretical expression that tells me the bit error rate. So I can't measure bit error rate, but I can measure EVM. For BPSK, it's pretty close to this relationship. Once I know the SNR, I can calculate what the bit error would be. So super useful metric, the EVM. Now, to get back to this discussion about higher order modulation formats, what happens when I go to QPSK, which is 4 symbols in the constellation, or if I go to something even higher? These are some other modulation formats. I just wanted to show you that as I'm getting more complex modulation, I'm more subject to this problem when I'm at low SNR. I'm making a lot of errors, that length of the vectors are not accurate, and so the discrepancy becomes quite large. BPSK, not an issue, but for other ones, be careful when using EVM. Of course, if we're at very high SNR, as I mentioned earlier, there's not much discrepancy. There are very few errors. There are very few times when the vector should have been a different length. So, we've seen many metrics for performance. We talked about bit error rate, the gold standard, but how expensive it is to measure it in the laboratory. EVM, less complex alternative, but it still provides a quantitative measure of the quality of our signal, and it complements the eye diagram. So the eye diagram gives us some metrics, EVM gives us another one, which could be quite useful. At high SNR, the errors are rare, and the experimental EVM is close to the ideal EVM. And EVM, most importantly, can be used to approximate SNR in these conditions, and the SNR can be used to approximate bit error rate.